That's right. I moved over 1,000 miles away from home. I moved from a Midwestern town of a few thousand people to a big city of millions. As you can imagine, it was a bit of a culture shock at first. I felt kind of like George of the Jungle discovering cutlery. Can't believe I did that. The sheer amount of people was enough of a change. Back home, if cars passed by, even while you were driving, you would wave, might even say hello out the window. Most certainly, if you were doing yard work or something and someone passed by, they would honk and you'd wave. Not so here. And it's not just out of unfriendliness why this doesn't happen. It's also for practical reasons. You would have to turn it into your full-time job of waving to people. It's just too many people. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of high-speed roads. It's very unlike the slow-paced countryside that I grew up in. If you nodded and smiled at everyone you walked past in the grocery, you'd never make it out of there.
Have a nice day. You.
One major problem I have with this is that it makes everyone a bit too self-focused.
I want, me.
And less community-minded. One of the saddest things I witness, and this is probably more of a generational thing than a city thing, but still, I see it a lot in the city, is that people will shove their headphones into their ears while they're in public. It's not just that I think that's rude, but I think it's sad. They'll do it at the grocery, so they're unable to hear people saying, "Excuse me," or "You dropped something." They'll do it at the checkout lines to the cashiers. It makes me sad because it's a serious breakdown of social protocol. But also, they're missing out on all these opportunities to encounter another human. You never know if you're the one who's supposed to help them have a good day, if they're supposed to brighten yours, or if they're your next best friend or your spouse. There are plenty of times I need to rush in the store and I would much rather be listening to my music and just avoid any interaction just so I can focus and get stuff done. But I choose not to. I refuse to cut off human interaction, or at least the opportunity for it. This self-centered pattern will also lead to horrible things like the bystander effect, which is even more prevalent in higher population. Something else I miss is the variety of architecture. Not that the small countryside is where you see, cathedrals or anything. But there is more variety in any given place that you see. Whereas here, I see a lot of tall shoeboxes. Basically, sometimes I feel like it's the Dredd movie. Awesome movie, by the way.
I am the law.
You see a lot of fast food and a lot of liquor stores. I miss green fields and gardens. One of the most egregious things about being in the city is the treatment of dogs. But I won't even get into that, because I'll cry. They're bad everywhere, and it's getting worse, but it's really bad in big cities. Strays, higher kill rates, dogfighting rings, overcrowded kennels. But we won't get into that, really. But all is not lost in the city.
Bright lights, big city, that's where we gotta go.
I've been to wonderful Broadway shows. I've been to real fine dining restaurants that felt like a movie. I've gone to near perfect museums. I've been dancing. I've gone to festivals. There's always something to do, try, taste, and see in the city. And I've grown to really love that about it. Another benefit to being in the city now is that I have become a much better driver. I was a decent driver before, but I was much too cautious. However, being in a bustling city like this means you have to move fast. You have to be quick, well-timed, and somewhat aggressive sometimes, but most certainly making good decisions while you're driving. I've become an offensive driver as well as the defensive driver. I now feel pretty confident to drive most places. But this happened organically because I had to. If I was going to explore the city after I moved here and do things that were interesting, I was going to have to drive around. I was going to have to go places I had no idea how to get there. Another interesting and fun thing about the city is I've got to meet all kinds of people from all over the world. I have met British people, Mexican people, German people, Jewish people, African people, Georgian people. It's been really interesting observing the different cultures, trying the different food, and talking about our families. Things that I would not have been exposed to back in my hometown. However, I think one of the best things that I gained from moving 1,000 miles away from my family and my home is the independence that I gained. When you're out of the safety net of your family's arms, you have to stand on your own feet. There's no choice. But you also gain a lot of freedom, perspective, and independence, and self-reliance. I now have the knowledge that I can pick up and pack up and move somewhere and I can probably make that place my home too. And that knowledge is priceless to have. Another huge benefit to having moved here, which this is more about having moved away than living in the city, is that my husband and I, for the first few years of our marriage, were truly alone. We were living our lives away from either of our families. And it's not that our families are particularly toxic. It's just that when you are away from them, you're forced to rely on each other. You're forced to build your lives alone. You're forced to figure things out. You're forced to help each other get through these dark times and to deal with your problems on your own without the interference or opinions of others. We became this strong tower that we know we can make it through together. We also know that we will defend each other. Neither of our families will ever have the gumption to say something bad about the other. If my family doesn't respect him, they're going to hear it from me. If his family doesn't respect me, they're going to hear it from him. Luckily, there's no issue. We all love each other. However, I highly recommend when you are first starting out in your marriage to live at least a few hours away from either of your families. That may not be plausible when you have young ones. I hadn't considered that, really. I don't have children yet. But when you're just starting out, just the two of you, it really helps to build that foundation alone. No surprise visits, no inspections, no drama, ruining your early days. I am very glad that I moved to the big city. I'd do it again. However, my small town heart misses the simple, quiet, and friendly life of the countryside. Will I move back home? No. Not likely. I still treasure the fact that I get to be alone with my husband. Will I stay in the big city? Also unlikely. I think I'll soak up some more this city has to offer. I'll go to a few more shows, a few more restaurants, find some more museums to haunt, and then we'll go find our new home. A place where I can ponder life's complexities from the back porch while shucking corn next to my husband. A place near enough to a big city where I can still see my Broadway shows and get a good cocktail. There are benefits to either way of life. And I think if you can experience both. It's pretty fun. But getting out of your hometown isn't something you have to do. It isn't something that only the brave do. I'm glad I did it. And I would do it again. And I would recommend it to my siblings. But it's not for everybody. And I don't think less of you if you decide to stay in your hometown. I'm only saying that for those of you who feel that pull, you should try it. It's not as bad as you think. It's not as scary as you think. If you're very introverted, it might be hard, because then you'll just be alone in a city. But I think it's worthwhile. I think learning to live outside of the family dynamic and the experiences of your hometown is a healthy thing for most people to try. You learn more about yourself, more about your family, and more about the world by doing this. But as usual, I'm probably just overthinking it.
Howdy, man. Hey, how you doing? People so unfriendly here, it's like talking to a bunch of damn rocks. Get the hell away from me.
Pepper, behave yourself.
He ain't gonna show.
I only gave him half a 20, he'll show.
Hey, I'm gonna hit him.
Pepper,